In part 1, I, a 28-year-old man, inherited everything from my late father, his house, business, and money, after he tragically passed away from COVID-19. My mother and sister, both narcissistic and entitled, tried to claim the house for themselves. Despite their manipulative behavior, I stood my ground, refusing to let them take advantage of me. When they demanded I evict myself to give the house to my sister who was expecting a child, I made it clear that I wouldn't back down. The confrontation escalated, but I managed to force them out with the help of my girlfriend's recordings as evidence. Here's the update for the story, but unfortunately, letting things go was never something my mother would do. After a few days, I started receiving messages from people I knew and some relatives online. A lot of them were furious with me, but others just had questions about what was going on. I tried checking my social media, but I couldn't see anything they were saying because both my sister and mother had blocked me on their profiles. My girlfriend, however, could still see everything since they kept their profiles open. She screenshotted everything and printed some of it out. Both my sister's and my mother's profiles had posts calling me a greedy, heartless bastard who supposedly stole the house that was meant to be my sister's inheritance. The posts claimed I took it right out from under her by bribing the lawyer who handled Dad's will, which was a complete and utter lie, and they both knew it. I called my lawyer, who was also my father's lawyer and a trusted family friend. I gave him copies of all the screenshots from social media and the video my girlfriend had recorded the day my mother demanded my house. He wanted to send a formal cease and desist, but I wanted to go further. He sent them a letter via express mail that had to be signed for, so I knew they received it. The same day the letter was delivered, my mother called me, furious. I told her that if she and my sister didn't retract the false claims about me and tell the truth, I'd send all the information I had to the entire family, her boss, and upload the videos we'd recorded of her online. I'd also sue her on top of it. She called me unreasonable, claiming she only did what she did for my sister's sake. She launched into a full-blown lecture, reiterating her belief that my sister still needed my house more than I did. I bluntly stated I didn't care what she thought, and that if she didn't correct everything and tell the truth, I'd make sure her career was ruined. She begrudgingly agreed, saying, "Fine, you win. Have it your way and keep the fucking house," before hanging up. That very evening, all the lying posts disappeared from both their profiles. I was unblocked, and my mother gave me and everyone else a half-hearted apology, claiming she jumped the gun with everything she said, because she thought my sister needed my house more than me. She even admitted that the house was rightfully mine according to my father's will, something she knew long before he passed away. As for my sister, she apologized too, but she mostly parroted everything our mother said, claiming she just went along with her ideas and blamed her actions on pregnancy hormones. The replies flooded in on both my mother's and sister's profiles. Many were furious with them for trying to take my house. I got plenty of messages of sorry from those who'd previously believed them, but it showed me who was truly on her side. Most were people from her side of the family anyway. Nobody on my father's side believed her, and they openly said so. My sister and her boyfriend ended up moving in with our mother to save money, but she put them in the basement to keep her Airbnb running. My sister started crying on social media about not being able to live upstairs. I'm pretty sure the two of them were fighting, as all my sister did after that was complain online. And my mother barely posted anything on social media anymore after the previous stunt. The whole incident inspired me to install cameras inside and outside of my house. My dad was old school and didn't care about cameras. Hell, he didn't even care about TV, aside from the occasional movie. But now that I owned the house, cameras were a necessary upgrade. My girlfriend and I didn't tell anybody about them outside our close friend circles. Those who knew about them were sworn to secrecy and kept their word. A couple of weeks went by without hearing from my mother or sister, except for what I saw on my sister's social media. She was constantly complaining about having to live in our mother's basement. I'm pretty sure she was making our mother miserable for it. But what came next surprised me. I got a frantic call from my sister saying that her boyfriend was questioning whether or not he was the father of her child, and he was threatening to leave unless they got a paternity test. My sister swore up and down that she'd always been faithful to him. I admit I believed there was a chance she could be lying, given our mother's past affair and how it had made our father question our paternity. I suggested they get a DNA test, and my sister babbled about not having the money. I offered to pay for it, but only on the condition that she didn't come to me asking for any more money or favors after this. She quickly agreed. I arranged for the test and shelled out extra to ensure we got the results as quickly as possible, though it would still take a few days. I hadn't met my sister's fiancé yet, but when I did, I began to understand a bit more. He was half Hispanic, and my mother, though not openly about it, was quite the closet racist, something she got from my grandparents. I decided to try talking to him and took him out for a beer. While at the pub, he spilled his guts. He said my mother had been whispering in his ear, telling him that my sister was just like her and that she'd cheated before, so she might have done it again. This made him doubt her more and more each day, and he wasn't sure she didn't cheat or get pregnant on purpose to try and baby trap him so she wouldn't have to work anymore. Sadly, I knew he was probably right about the latter. But beyond that, he described her as a completely different person when she wasn't around our mother. Since they'd been living in our mom's basement, she'd become more and more childish. After what I saw at my house, I wholeheartedly believed him. I asked if he'd suggested therapy, and he admitted he'd wanted to but couldn't afford it. He'd been walking on eggshells around her and our mother for a while, so he'd never brought it up. That's when I felt some brotherly instincts I didn't know I still had. I realized that if I was going to have a niece or nephew, I couldn't let them live with or be raised by my mother. So I did the only thing I could think of. I offered him a job and training at the company I now owned. He quickly agreed because he didn't want to live with my mother any more than he had to. The day the DNA test results arrived in the mail, my sister called me. She said the test results hadn't come yet, though she'd received the mail that day. I asked who got the mail, and she said it was our mother. That confirmed my theory. She was trying to force out my sister's boyfriend. Since I didn't trust my mother, I'd already arranged for the clinic to send me a backup copy of the test results, which arrived the same day. I called my mother, who initially denied having the results, but after pressing her, she finally admitted she had them. When I threatened to bring over the backup copy, she quickly hung up. I picked up my sister and her boyfriend, and we went to a diner to open the results together. It was positive. He was the father. My sister's boyfriend was so happy that he actually asked her to marry him, and she said yes like half a dozen times. The little vindictive part of me was waiting to see my mother's face when she got the news. But what happened next shocked me. When I took my sister back home, her and her boyfriend's things were being moved out onto the lawn by a couple of men I didn't recognize. My sister froze, her face showing a look I'd never seen before. Our mother stormed outside in a rage, holding the DNA test results she claimed never arrived. She started verbally tearing into my sister, demanding she abort the baby or leave her house immediately. I stood there, glaring at her. She froze. Then she stormed off, screaming, "You're all a bunch of racial slurs." I could only shake my head in disbelief at the audacity. I took my sister and her boyfriend to a hotel, and a family friend helped them find an apartment. I also gave my sister's boyfriend a job at my company. It took some time, but he started at the bottom and was grateful for the opportunity. My sister started therapy and has made real progress, even acknowledging how spoiled she had been. She regrets not apologizing to our father before he passed. As for my mother, she made a foolish move. She broke my front windows with rocks, with racial slurs written on them. But thanks to the cameras I'd installed, she was caught on tape. I handed the footage over to the police, filed charges, and got a restraining order. She's now banned from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. Meanwhile, she's losing business from her Airbnb, and the rest of her family has distanced themselves. My sister is far better off now, and I'm able to help her grow into a better person. And that's the end of this crazy story. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section.